Good afternoon, dear learners. Welcome to NMS Studio. So, today we are going to discuss the nutrient, water and weed management of its part 2. So, here in the last class we have understood the what is nutrient and how it is affecting the plant. So, our today's objective is to identify the water requirement for the various crops and their concept, as well as the significance of supplying irrigation water to the plant, and also you will able to discuss the different irrigation technique, as well as you will also be able to describe the preventive as well as the curative strategies of weed control. So, dear learners, let's recapitulate some of the things of the last class. In the last class, we have understood that there are 17 essential plant nutrient, and a plant nutrient to be called essential, it must follow the criteria of essentiality, which is given by Arnon and Stout. And out of these 17 essential plant nutrient, there are 3 primary nutrient, that is the nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium, and there is 3 secondary nutrient, that is the calcium, magnesium and sulfur, and also there are the 8 micronutrient, out of which the zinc, iron, copper, manganese, they are the cationic micronutrient, while the boron and molybdenum as well as chlorine, they are the anionic micronutrient. So, after that we have understood what are the different chemical forms of the nutrient, or we can say in which form plant can take up this nutrient from the soil. So, here we have understood that the nitrogen is taken up as a ammonium and nitrate form, while the phosphorus is taken up as a phosphate ion format, while the potassium, calcium, magnesium, they are all taken up in the cationic ion format. So, after that we have also discussed about what are the major role that is the played by the various types of nutrient in the plant, where we have discussed that in case of nitrogen, it is particularly helpful for plant growth, while in case of phosphorus, it is a part of nucleoprotein, it stimulates the root growth as well as energy storage and the transfer function, while the potassium is the activator of many enzymes and it can regulate the osmotic potential in the cell, and also it will able to help in translocation of sugar as well as carbohydrate. So, after that we have also discussed what are the role of iron, manganese, zinc, copper, boron as well as chlorine, and after that we have also understood what are the deficiency symptoms of various types of plant nutrient, and here in this picture we have understood the what type of plant nutrient are showing what type of nutrient deficiency, and in a plant body where these plant deficiencies are generally visible. So, dear learners, so in the today's session we are going to discuss about the water management in the crop. We all know that is the water is all around us. It may be in salt water format or it may be in fresh water format. However, in case of the water management in agriculture, we must give the fresh water to the plant, and for this reason this water is known as one of the key ingredients of our life, and in our cell or in our protoplasm a significant portion is this water. So, in case of plant, this water is actually required for photosynthesis as well as the translocation of nutrient, and also it can help to maintain the heat balance in our body. So dear learners, let's first learn about the soil water. Actually, plants can take up the water from the soil, and this and the soil which holds the water, this is termed as a soil water. Actually, in soil the water comes through various sources, and one of the principal, or we can say the most natural source is rainfall or other forms of precipitation. However, when water enters into the soil, they may be lost through various processes, and this may be through evaporation from soil surface, this may be through transpiration from the plant leaf, or this water can be lost through the deep percolation. So dear learners, now let's discuss what is the irrigation. Actually, we have understood that as the soil water is lost in various way, we can say that when a plant needs the water for its growth, there may not be sufficient amount of water in soil to support its growth. So for this reason, we actually artificially apply the water in the soil. So this artificial application of water is called irrigation, and this irrigation can supplement the rainfall for the crop production, and it can create a better or favorable environment for crop growth as well as yield. So next let's discuss about the polyphasic system of soil. Actually, a soil is made up of three phases. First is the solid phase. Solid phase means the solid matrix, and here actually the solid matrix means the various types of primary, secondary mineral that are found in the soil. While in case of liquid phase, it actually denotes the soil water, and in soil generally soil water is not found in a separate way. Actually, the various types of dissolved substances are found in it. So for this reason, in case of soil, the soil water is called soil solution. And our third phase is the gaseous phase. It is called the soil atmosphere. Here in this soil atmosphere, we can find the various types of gases like nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide, and as well as the water vapor and other gases. While we are discussing the liquid portion of the soil, here in this soil solution or soil liquid, we can find the soluble organic matter, various types of dissolved mineral, as well as the water itself. So dear learners, now let's understand what do we mean by water movement in the soil. Actually, in a soil, the water moves from high water potential to low water potential. In case of high water potential, it means that here the soil has this soil water has high free energy, while in case of low water potential, here the soil water has low free energy. So here the water moves from the region of higher free energy to the region of lower free energy. Coming to the next, there are various terminologies associated with the water movement in the soil. First terminology is infiltration. It actually means that the process of entry of water in the soil, and this infiltration happens when there is a rainfall or we apply the irrigation in the soil, and it simply means the entry of water into the soil. And here after the infiltration, this water can move into the soil in horizontal way as well as the vertical way. Then next is the saturated flow. Here actually the water moves into saturated format when all the pores in soil are filled with water. And here actually the saturated flow, or under the saturated flow in a soil, the major driving force for water movement is our gravitational attraction force. Now next comes to the unsaturated flow in the soil. Here actually it occurs when all the soil pore space in a soil are not filled with water. Here maybe the macropores are not filled with water. However, in soil the micropores or some of the micropores are filled with water. Then comes the vapor movement. Here actually here this vapor movement happens when the soil is extremely dry, and in soil pore spaces the water is present in the form of water vapor. And in case of vapor movement, the water vapor actually moves due to the difference in vapor pressure difference. Now next comes the concept of water requirement. Actually we can say that the water requirement is defined as the quantity of water required by a crop for its normal growth as well as the development under a given field condition. And when we say the water requirement of the crop, it actually denotes the evapotranspiration loss as well as the losses during the irrigation, during the application of irrigation, and the water required for various types of special operation, like it may be for land preparation, earthing, or other agricultural operation that are carried in field in time to time. So when we say that there is a particular irrigation requirement of crop, actually this denotes it is the total amount of water applied to a crop field for supplementing the effective rainfall as well as the soil moisture that is the present within the soil already, as well as the groundwater contribution to the crop growth. So when we say the irrigation requirement, it is the part of the total water requirement of a crop. So now let's see some of the crops with their major water requirement in millimeter. In case of rice, there is the requirement of around 1100 to 1250 millimeter of irrigation, while in case of maize there is a requirement of water for 500 to 600 millimeter. In case of pulses, water requirement is generally far lower than the rice, while in case of sugarcane the water requirement is higher than even rice. It is around 1800 to 2200 millimeter. So we can say that we should go for cultivation of a crop when after calculating the water requirement, or after assessing the water requirement in a certain region. Now let's understand what is the meaning of scheduling of irrigation. Actually when we say the scheduling of irrigation, it means the technique of deciding the time of irrigation as well as the quantity of water that is to be needed for irrigation of the crop. Actually this scheduling of irrigation is needed for optimize the water use for our irrigation purpose. As we know, the water is a non-renewable resource, so we must use our water in most optimal way. And second purpose will be the decrease in irrigation requirement. When we do not schedule our irrigation, we may over irrigate our land. So here actually the more irrigation water is needed, as well as the more cost for the farmer will be occurred. So this scheduling of irrigation is needed it actually helps to decrease the farmers irrigation requirement. Now next comes the it actually also helps to obtain our higher yield. Now comes to the what are the factors that can affect the scheduling of irrigation. Actually the scheduling of irrigation is controlled by the inherent soil moisture present in the soil crop growth stage, as well as the evaporative demand of our atmosphere. So when we go for scheduling of irrigation, we must keep in mind our factor for a successful scheduling of irrigation. Now next comes what are the methods of irrigation. Actually based on the type of irrigation, irrigation is divided into two categories. First is the surface irrigation and next is the micro irrigation. In case of surface irrigation, there is the flooding, check basin as well as furrow method of irrigation, while in case of micro irrigation there is the sprinkler as well as drip irrigation. So dear learners, let's take a break. After that we will discuss more about this method of irrigation as well as the weed management. Welcome back, dear learners. So we are discussing about methods of irrigation. So let's understand first the surface irrigation method. Actually, this surface irrigation method is most widely used in India. Out of this surface irrigation method, flooding method is most common. Here is actually the water is transported from channel to the entire field, and this water actually covers the entire field to irrigate the crops. Here actually in this flooding method, the efficiency of water, efficiency of irrigation is much lower. However, this flooding method is most common practice used in lowland rice cultivation. Now next comes to the check basin method of irrigation. Actually this check basin method is most suitable for closely spaced crop like groundnut, wheat as well as finger millet. Here actually the field is divided into small subunit with the bunds in between them, and as a result there is basin formed in between these small unit areas, and the water is flown from a main channel, then the sub channel, and then the irrigation is provided whole land. However, in this check basin method is the efficiency of irrigation is quite higher than the flooding method. Now next comes to the furrow method. Here actually ridge and furrows are made while the crops are grown on the ridges, while the water is applied through the furrows, and this furrow method of irrigation is widely practiced for widely spaced crops. Now next comes to the sprinkler irrigation. It is actually the method of applying the irrigation water like natural rainfall with the help of sprinkler. Here actually the higher amount of water saving can be done. Here actually up to 70% of water can be saved through this sprinkler irrigation method. And here actually this sprinkler irrigation method not suitable for hot or wind areas, and here actually due to this high evaporative demand, this sprinkler applied water may be evaporated into the atmosphere. Now next comes to the drip or trickle irrigation. Actually this drip and trickle irrigation was invented by Simcha Blas from the Israel. Here actually with the help of dripper or emitter, the water is applied into the soil or root zone of the crop at very low rate. So here actually this water is applied in the form of drip or drip by drip format. For this reason this irrigation is called the drip irrigation, and this type of irrigation is particularly useful in the water scarce areas, saline areas, or in case of widely spaced crop like orchard crop as well as the plantation crop. So this drip as well as the sprinkler irrigation is combinedly called micro irrigation method. Now next comes to the weed management of our crop field. So before going into the weed management, now let's first understand what is the meaning of weed. Actually weed means the unwanted or undesirable plant that compete with crops for water, soil nutrient, light, space, and as a result these plants can reduce the crop yield. And when we say the weed, actually these weeds are more competitive and more adaptable to its surrounding environment or the extreme environment. So as a result in a extreme environment where our crop plant dries, these weeds can survive here. some of the example of weed crops are, it may be the Bermuda grass, Chenopodium album or the Melilotus alba. Now let's first understand what are the classification of the weeds. Based on the life cycle, the weed is classified into three categories. First category is annual. Here the life cycle of weed is completed in a single year or in a single season. And the some of the example of the annual weeds are the Echinocloa, Chenopodium as well as the Phyllanthus. While in case of biannual weed, here the life cycle of weed is completed within the 2 season or within a 2 year. So this type of weed is like carrot grass. And when we say the perennial weed, here actually the life cycle of weed is completed in more than 2 years, and some of the prominent example of this weed is Bermuda grass, cypress as well as star grass. Now let's understand the classification of weed based on the number of cotyledon present in it. In case of monocot, there is one cotyledon is present, while in case of dicot, there is 2 dicotyledon in the plant. So when we say the monocot, we can see here narrow and upright leaf, and while we say the dicot, here we can find the broad as well as horizontal leaves. Now next comes the classification of weed based on their morphological character. Here actually the weeds are categorized into 3 groups. First group is called sage, second group is called grass, and the third group is called the broadleaf weed. In case of sage, there is the cypress species, while in case of grass, there is the Echinocloa species which is found in the rice field, while in case of broadleaf weed, there is the Ludwigia species, lantana species that are commonly found. Now dear learners, let's understand what is the meaning of crop weed competition. We have already understood that the weeds actually compete with crop plant for the space, nutrient, water, light as well as the carbon dioxide. Here actually this relationship between weed as well as crop is called crop weed competition. And then comes the critical period of crop weed competition. Here actually it means it is the period where we can find the maximum amount of crop weed competition. So here actually the special precaution need to be taken to weeding out the crop field. Here actually in this period the crop field should be kept weed free during this period to obtain the maximum yield. Now next comes the what are the weed management procedure. Here actually it means it is a set of practices that is aimed at minimizing the weed infestation in the crop field, and a weed management can be categorized into 2 groups. First one is the preventive method and the second one is the curative method, and under the curative method there are the physical, chemical, biological as well as cultural methods. Now let's understand what is the meaning of the integrated weed management. Here actually the integrated weed management means the integrated use of mechanical method, cultural method, biological method as well as the chemical method for weed control in the crop field. Now let's first see what are the preventive method that are mostly used in the field. Here in case of preventive method, we recommend using the clean and weed free crop seed, using the clean implement, as well as we should remove the weeds before it produces the seed, and we should also ensure that well decomposed manures are applied in the field. Now next comes the curative method. Under this method there are two ways. One is eradication method, another one is the control method. In case of eradication, it is the complete removal of all the live plant parts as well as seeds from an area, while in case of control method, it is the managing the weed infestation. However, the weeds are not necessarily eliminated from the field, and here actually we use the various types of physical, chemical, cultural and biological method. Now next comes the physical method. Under this method, hand weeding is the most common. Here actually the farmers are uprooting the weeds with the help of a hand hoe or a khurpi. While this hand weeding technique is the most inefficient or the labor intensive way of hand weeding. With this hand weeding method, we cannot clear a large area of land out of weed. So here actually the efficiency of weeding is the low. While there are another method that is called mulching. Here actually it is the practice of covering the soil in the inter-row spaces with the straw, crop residue as well as the plastic and other type of material. So here actually with the help of mulching we can suppress the various types of weeds that can grow in the inter-row spaces of the crop. Now next comes the biological method. Here actually we can utilize the various types of natural living organism such as insects, herbivorous fish as well as the other animal disease, and these organisms can compete with wheat plant and they can save our desirable crop plant, and as a result we use the biological method. These methods are most sustainable and economical way of managing the weeds, and some of the organisms that can be used in this method, these are like Coletotrichum species, bipolar species as well as the Phytophthora species. So dear learners, thank you so much. I hope that today you have understood the major techniques of water as well as the weed management in the crop field. In the next class we will meet up with another topic. So till then, thank you so much.